Thoughts precede action, and actions bring results. My name is Pablo. I am trained as a Buddhist teacher and also as a holistic wellness coach. I work with people around the resolution of trauma and recovery from addiction and much more. My website is causesofwellbeing.com. And today, I'm sitting at my desk, partly because the idea is that I wanted you to see something. So for those of you at home who can't read this, I'm holding up a framed print that I bought a couple years ago in Palm Springs. It says, "Change the way you think, and the world changes around you." And that kind of sums up the message of the teaching for today. I'm just going to set this back here. What I want to talk about today is the teaching, which I like to describe as, it's not one of the cool kids of the Buddhist teachings. It does come from the Eightfold Path, which is one of the primary ways that the entire Buddhist endeavor is kind of communicated to willful practitioners. But I want to talk about the teaching on effort. Now, a lot of times, the teaching on effort or right effort or wise effort is framed in this very simplistic way that I think really misses the kind of clever utility of the teaching. It's a very practical way of working with your own thoughts and your own mind. And the reason that this is important is because, as I said at the beginning of the video, it's our thoughts that precede and basically inform everything that we do. There's actually a step that kind of comes before that, which I'll talk about in another video, which is simply that, as we're moving through the world and we're encountering things that we like and we dislike, we tend to form, sense of liking and disliking things, and from liking and disliking things we form thoughts and stories and narratives, and out of those thoughts and stories and narratives we take action, and those actions bring results which make us feel like we're either experiencing more well-being or we're generating harm or suffering for ourselves. So it's kind of a critically important thing to be able to have some way of managing your own mind. And of course, this is central to Buddhist teachings. So right effort is often talked about as like the kind of application of energy that we might use for just being, quote unquote, mindful, or just kind of bringing a sense of energy to the practice in general. And what we might mean by practice in the context of Buddhism can be many, many things. But in the traditional teachings, there's something that is much more just clever. I just think it's really clever. So here it is. It's basically a 4-part approach to managing your own internal thoughts, as opposed to those external thoughts, right? I guess there are external thoughts. But here's what it looks like. The idea is that you engage in the practice of preventing negative mind states, ones that produce, that are fairly predictably could produce actions that lead to external harm and personal suffering. So step 1 is that when those kinds of mind states, the negative mind states, have not yet arisen, the idea is to simply prevent them from doing so, which means that you have some kind of vigilance around your own mind. Now, this is something I do all the time. I catch myself starting down a road with a kind of a story or a sense of myself or a kind of, even some of those long conditioned narratives that in my case come from probably like upbringing and history with trauma and all that sort of stuff. And it's really a powerful thing to notice that you're spinning a story, because you know that story has consequences for you and your well-being. And so you might notice that that there's an impulse to just even start down that road. And as soon as you notice that, you just prevent that thought, that story from taking hold. So that's something that any of us can do. It's a very practical thing to just watch our minds, to become familiar with the stories and the narratives that do not support well-being, and stop them. So that's step one. Step two is to abandon any, non-generative, negative outcome kind of thoughts as they have arisen. So you might notice, you've gone beyond the impulse, beyond the formation of the thought, and you're already indulging in it. Maybe you've been walking around for an hour, or hell, 2 days, or your entire life, reinforcing, looking for external validation of a story that is disempowering, something that supports a sense of yourself that's disempowering in the world. This is a huge part of the work I do with people around trauma. So if that kind of a thought or mind state has arisen, then we want to make sure we abandon it. Get rid of it, because it doesn't serve you. Then there's step three, which is to proactively cultivate generative, positive outcome mind states and thoughts and stories that have not yet arisen. So if you're walking around and, you notice that your mind is maybe kind of tilted towards negativity, you actually have the option of proactively cultivating positive mind states. This is a thing you can absolutely do. And I know it sounds corny, but one of my favorite ways to do it, and most effective ways to do it, is gratitude practice. Simply, I like to, when I notice these kind of stories come up, or these kind of just mind states come up, I try to cultivate gratitude. I try to literally direct my attention, using my reflective capacities of mind, to connect with things that I'm happy that they exist in my life. And there's any number of things that I might go to for that. Now, I suppose here at this point, I probably should clarify the difference between, because the traditional teaching is not so much negative thoughts as it is negative or positive mind states. And so negative and positive mind states, and there's an important distinction here, because the mind states generate the thoughts in a way, and then the thoughts generate actions, and the actions bring results, right? So there is this emphasis on paying attention to a sense of basically liking and disliking things, of kind of a sort of upbeat, positive mental state and a negative one. And so there's probably an argument that it's pretty hard to get in between a negative mind state and then the generation of negative thoughts, but it's important in terms of understanding basically how the human mind works, that there is a distinction. So I'm kind of lumping them here together, but so be it. So we have preventing negative mind states that have not yet arisen. We have abandoning negative mind states once they have arisen. We have cultivating generative and positive outcome mind states that have not yet arisen. And then finally, the fourth step is to maintain the generative, positive outcome mind states once they have arisen. So if you're in a good mental place, you can actually be proactive about maintaining that state. And that has everything to do with how we direct our awareness and attention, right? How we do the other three things. That as the mind kind of tees up a thought that could send you down a road that is not so pleasant or generative, then you resist that. Okay. So I had a teacher named Gil Fronsdale. Some of you will know who he is, who's one of my primary sources, I guess you would say. I don't have a close relationship with him, but I spent a lot of time studying his work. And he had this great way of summing up this teaching, and I'll leave you with this. He said, if you're not yet making things worse, then don't. If you're already making things worse, then stop it. If you're not yet creating, or basically making things better, then start. And if you're already making things better, then keep it up. So I think that's a great summary of the teaching on wise effort. Thanks so much for listening. I hope this is helpful to you. In between this video and the last video, I've been persuaded to add a audio version, to make an audio version of this available, which is why I have this lovely furry mic in front of me. So there's going to be a podcast as well. And probably by the time I release this video, that will be in place. And so that is likely to be called the Causes of Well-Being podcast with Pablo Das. So in that context, I'll actually add some extra commentary to make it worth listening to that as well, which may not just be commentary on the teaching, but just could be damn near anything that I want to say. So if you're interested in one-on-one support, my website is causesofwellbeing.com. You can go to the coaching tab where I have discounted offers for an initial block of 4 sessions for first-time clients. And finally, if you would be so kind as to subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would send me a message that people are listening. I have jumped out of my nest. I am learning to fly on the way down. I have no real idea of what the hell it is I'm doing. But the initial reception to the idea of this YouTube channel has been very positive, and I really, really appreciate that. So that's what's happening. Thanks for listening. I hope you're well, and I hope this was helpful to you. Cheers.